TV titles tend to set the mood for the show, and remind you that you're on a 7-hour binge of Friends because yours are nowhere to be found.
I'm fine.
And for me, it was on my 10th episode of Gilmore Girls that I realized it's not a bad show, but that Netflix also has a skip intro button that allows you to skip the intro. So mathematically, you can fit in more Gilmore into your life. But in the past decade, TV titles have evolved from just naming off the cast and crew to creating some of the most memorable themes and intros to even changing from episode to episode. So while you may not skip the Office jingle because you dig it, let's be honest, not every TV title is as short as Lost. So I got to thinking about all of my favorite ones and the ones that aren't worth skipping, and that led me to season 4 of my favorite Netflix original series, BoJack Horseman. A show that's not only the inspiration for this video, but one that I highly recommend because it's funny, it's dark, and it's depressing all at the same time, yet it's wonderful. If anything, I would suggest Season 2, Episode 2, which I think is the funniest season, or even Season 3, Episode 4, which is the most engaging one, since I know that Season 1 may take a little bit to get into. But either way, we're talking about TV titles, and BoJack Horseman definitely gives you a reason to not skip them. Since Episode 1, each sequence changes a bit depending on the events that have happened or are going to happen. Like if somebody burns the couch in an episode, then expect the next episode to show you that burnt couch in the title sequence. Someone steals the D from the Hollywood sign, then it's still missing in Season 4, and at one point could even be found on the Netflix overview screen. But it's not just those cool little Easter eggs that make it worth it, but also the foreshadowing and how it reflects BoJack's state of mind. Because obviously the show is about a depressed horse who in the 90s used to be in a very famous TV show. And the titles visually tell you that a lot of his problems are his own fault. He's not willing to change the same way you don't see him move much in the opening credits. He's the one who's pitted himself. The side characters in the background also come in and out depending on how close they are to BoJack at the time, or disappear whenever BoJack's being a real BoJack. In other words, the amount of detail in the intro not only reflects the amount of detail they put into the show, but it rewards you if you pay attention and don't skip it, leaving clues for storylines that aren't yet resolved. I won't spoil it all here, but there's a dude named Johnny Two Cellos who you should definitely check out because he's got a dope breakdown of all the differences, so go check that out so you can catch them all. I, however, want to cover some other ones to prove that good TV titles shouldn't be skipped. There's no better example to go to than the work of Clair, someone who you may not recognize, but trust me, you've seen his stuff. His designs aren't just memorable because they look cool, but because they add to the story of these shows.
His origin story starts with him getting this kind of icky, radioactive, poisonous goop in his eyes when he's a kid, and that blinds him and then ultimately also gives him his power. We thought that liquid would be a cool way to express that. Whether that liquid is radioactive goop or blood is never really kind of defined for us.
We're talking Westworld, The Crown, Daredevil, The Man in the High Castle, American Gods, *Halt and Catch Fire*, The Night Manager, and oh yeah, True Detective.
Nick said to us that what he was trying to do was look at the poisoned, broken landscapes of Louisiana and use them as a metaphor for the poisoned, broken characters. People who'd been exploited, people who'd been polluted and used up. And I just kind of took that very literally, and I was like, well, what if we made portraits of the characters out of poisoned, broken landscapes?
It's when titles reflect a story that I believe they can be the most effective. Like The Leftovers changed for Season 2, where it had people missing out of photographs to reflect the rapture-like departure of the family members. Better Call Saul knows that you already know who Saul is, and they show just quick snippets of his environment. And in Season 2, they even switched that up a bit by still showing you similar images, but right at the end it flickers into black and white, signifying the demise we all know is coming. Orange is the New Black may be like a minute long, so use that skip button, but it does include an interesting Easter egg of Piper Kerman, who was the inspiration for the show, with her memoir. The Wire, which I'm sure someone in your life has told you to finish, which you should, kept the same theme for all 5 seasons, but it changed the artist covering the track so their style could fit with the location and story arc. Silicon Valley, which is one of my favorites, changes up their tech-driven intro every season depending on what companies are poppin', which have been trashed, like Vine, and maybe even predicting the future with Amazon drones delivering pizza. Fringe mentioned the episode's subjects through text, Game of Thrones changes up the locations depending on where the characters will be, and Lost just reminded you that you were lost, until they blew your mind in Season 5. So Netflix adding a skip button isn't a bad thing. It's the shows not giving you titles that are worth watching that's the problem. Because titles can set the tone and have you humming along. They can fill you with dread to ease you into the episode, or just give you a reoccurring gag. Either way, the opening credits of a show should be considered and treated like art, since the purpose of a title sequence should be to pull you in. So while I get that some should be skipped, I just wish the good ones got enough credit.